Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Lynn. Today I'm going to present the topic on building a personal story for your e-commerce brand. Hope you guys will enjoy this session and happy learning. To today's session, I want to tell you guys a little bit about myself. I have 10 years experience in marketing and analytics. Prior to DoGame, I work in an e-commerce company, AC, as well as like B2B marketing technology company at PubMatic and Brandwatch. Besides my full-time job, I'm also a consultant for a lot of like e-commerce companies, especially focused on like those e-commerce brands already have a presence in Asia, but wants to expand their markets to Europe and North America. So let's get started. So in today's sessions, we are going to cover four main parts about this topics for your e-commerce brands. We will start by why you should build and use your personal story for your e-commerce brand, and then going into structures on how you can build your personal story to fit your business, following by 4 tips to tell a compelling personal stories. And then we're going to end today's session with 2 case studies to give you some inspirations on how to use your personal story to fit into your e-commerce brand. So let's get started. So why you should build and use your personal story, especially in your e-commerce brands. So in today, let's face the reality first. So in current market space, like people are really busy. People receive a lot of marketing message every day. So the shocking status here are more than 75% of the emails from the brand specifically never even got opened. What is more scary, it's for the banner ads, more than 99% of the banner ads don't even get clicked. People are going to get 10,000 marketing message at most every single days. So how can you cut through all the noise and get the attentions you want to do? It's really, really hard. So your brand needs the attentions in order to generate revenue. And what you are facing as an entrepreneurs at an early stage is that you also have limited marketing budget. So how are you going to solve this problem? By getting attentions while not spending too much marketing budget on it. The answer to this is by leveraging unique and authentic way to build relationship with the audiences. And then how are you going to do that? It's by your personal story. The reason why this is so important is that your personal story, it's zero, it's close, like it's usually like zero or like very, very low cost, like to craft your personal story and fits into your brands. And then also it's going to be highly effective way to build a relationship with audience and then get attention you want to get. Because by creating a personal story, it's going to be memorable and influential for your audiences. So your audiences will get your message and then get to know your brand. So actually, you're foster an emotional relationship with your audience, which will convert into your brand awareness and then eventually your sales of your brand. And we actually here also listed out like 6 benefits of telling your personal story for your business brands. So let's first take a look of like the first 2 benefits, which is Telling your personal story for your e-commerce brand will humanize your brands and increase engagement. How so? It's because you infuse the personal perspective into your brand. So your brand is a vivid thing living in front of a lot of people rather than just like text, image, or videos, like always showing your brands, your service, and your products. And then no one knows your brands better than you. You are the founder, you are the boss for your brand. So, through your lens, through your eyes, to tell your story and then why you build this brand will be the most powerful because there's nobody can describe your brand better than yourself. And your personal story is the key part of your brand's DNA. So basically, you cannot completely separate your personal stories with the brands or the e-commerce business you're building with. So you are actually presented your story using your personal story in a more completely way. And then by humanizing your brands, eventually it will increase the engagement of your brands because people them are more willing to share emotions, experience feelings than the contents of only product, service, or the promo code. And the next two benefits are really crucial for your e-commerce business, which is telling your personal story for your e-commerce business will drive reach and sales, and then also encourage user participations. Maybe people would wondering that how can my personal story earn revenues for my brands? Like this is like that doesn't sound correct. But believe it or not, when you're starting your business, the real thing about people voluntarily spend money on a product or service, it's actually when people are actually paying attention to your brands and then also believe in what they're seeing and then relate to what they're seeing. At that time, people will be willing to spend money on the products that you're selling or promoting. And then that's why utilizing your personal story for your e-commerce brands, it's very important because it will reach to more people and then people will pay attention to the relatable characters they're seeing there. So they're willing to spend money on it. Not only by people will be relatable to your stories, but because you show your vulnerabilities on the platform to the community, that moving piece, that personal touch, will eventually shift audience behaviors and then it will engage your audience, your community to share the products, share your stories, share their own experience with the product by themselves. So it creates this community sense that actually encourage your audience's participation in your story and in your brand. Last but not by telling your personal stories through your business, it's actually going to help you build brand loyalty and foster authentic, authentic connections with your audience because it's your personal stories. So you are creating a narrative to show you understand yourself, you understand your audiences, and thus it will forming a strong communities to to your to your audience because you all share the similar brief or the similar belief and then similar experience to it. So by generally personal stories, it actually builds emotional connections, trust, and loyalty to a brand. So people are willing to stay with your brand longer than shifting to other brands, because for other brands they don't have much emotional connections to the brand. And then in the end, you want to not only just to sell the product, sell the service to your audience, you want to build and foster this genuine connections with your audiences. And then the foundation of that is you actually build that connection through your personal story first. So the foundation is strong enough for you to begin a beautiful connections with your audiences. So now you understand why it is so important to build your personal story to your e-commerce brand. You might be asking, then, okay, Lynn, then how can I build my personal story that fits to my business? How can I create this convincing and beautiful personal story to fit all the benefits that you just talked about? Well, to build a story, it's kind of easy. We all heard really good stories. The stories, the good story, usually have three main components: the beginning, the middle, and then the end. To build your personal story, it should also fit into the same structures of having a strong beginning, attractive middle, and a big finale in the end. So, to be more specific, you want to start your personal story by having the departure about what is like the problem and then the pursuit of the stories. So the problems and the pursuit needs to be closely tied to why does your business even exist? Why did you start your e-commerce brand in the first place? You usually by starting this with like a general problem or specific problems you are facing for it. It is a common problems for your audience and for yourself too. And then you believe in there's a better solutions to solve these problems, right? So you start with your problems and also clearly state the pursuit of it. So how are you going to solve it, or you are determined to solve it by doing X, Y, and Z, right? And that's your beginning, the your beginning of your story, the departure. And then it comes to the middle part that it's going to be introduce your products or service to your to the story. We call it the initiation. So the initiation is usually how you start to tackle the problems, and then what is your journey inside of like this solve. It's a perfect time to introduce your products or service into the story right now, because that's how you're going to use your products and service to act as guide to solve the problems in the beginning of your story, right? So here you can talk about how you have done your research, develop your brand, and believe in the brands that it's going to help. And then a lot of like iterations or process effort going inside of that, right? So after introducing the initiations, and then we're going to come to the end of the story, which we call it the finale or the return. So the return usually paints a great pictures of how much better your life has become after you go through all this journey to create this e-commerce brand or business of yourself, right? So it might be similar as like Oh, my life has been dramatically different or significantly improved by having my products or service right now. So you want to have this finale or return to tell the audiences that after all the journey I have been through, this is so far the good results I am getting. And then the journey continues, but right now I feel much better. My life is much better, right? So to recap the structure, it's simple as the beginning with the departure to stay your problem and pursue. In the middle, you want to introduce your products or service. We call it the in the initiation. And then you always want to end with the finale, the return, the greater life in your head. That's the structure. Then people might ask, then, okay, the structure seems to be easy, but how can I create a compelling personal stories that actually going to help my brands to the next level? So here are the 4 tips I can give you to craft a compelling personal stories for your business. Tip 1, we always start with our audience. So the tip 1 is actually to know your niche. Before tapping into knowing your niche, knowing your audiences, I want to tell all of you that a good story listening comes before good storytelling. So if you want to tell a great stories, usually the author or the creator of a great stories, they have like listened to 100 thousands of great stories before. That's why they're going to create a compelling and good story themselves, right? So the same with crafting our personal story into our business. It's also to know your audience and then know your audience's struggles, their stories, and then kind of like infuse that into our own personal storytelling. By identify your audiences, understand your target audience's demographic, interests, challenges, life stages they're coping with, difficulties they're facing, you are able to better create the stories that will resonate more with them, right? So after knowing your stories and identify what interests your audiences, you also want to create a relatable narratives around your story. You don't want your story to be really dry or just like fit into a few sentences. You actually want to utilize storytelling techniques such as case studies, behind the scene glimpse, your personal struggle, your personal journey to create emotional connections with your audiences. Tip number 2, it's always be genuine and invoke emotions through your personal stories. The main goal for having your personal stories for your e-commerce brand, it's not to sell more products. It's not to sell more of the services you're providing. The ultimate goal should be using your personal story to reach to more people and create meaningful connections with the audiences you want to reach to. So you have to be genuine and invoke emotions to the audiences. You have to show you you have to be not afraid to show your vulnerability side, and then also to show full transparencies, honest stories that showcase the human side of your brand, right? Like authenticity, it's really 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 important. And then also, you want to think about what kind of emotions you want your audiences to feel. Is that inspiring, excited, worried, or what kind of like positive or negative emotions like you want the audiences to feel after seeing or watching your personal stories? By knowing that, you are able to better to craft your story based on the emotions you want your audiences to feel. You're going to use your real life experiences to craft the story, as well as like paying attention to what kind of like words you're trying to use to craft to invoke the right emotions or the set of emotions you actually want audiences to feel. Tip number 3, it's actually how you're going to present your personal stories, right? You want to enhancing the stories with visuals. So you either want to use compelling visuals, or you want to also leverage video formats. So in today's digital world, like it's never a bad idea to invest and use professional photos of you or your stories. So using compelling visuals will be an added bonus for your personal stories to better convey to the audiences you want to reach. And then, because of like all the reels in Instagram, the TikTok, the short video formats, also consider to use video formats to tell your stories rather than just focus on text on different blogs or website. Utilizing video or even live streaming to deliver your narrative in a more compelling or attention grabbing way. Tip number 4 would be using topic clusters and then be consistent with your personal story. A lot of people might have these questions like, okay, my personal story is a one time thing. I only have so many stories to tell about myself and with my brands, especially tie myself with the brand. That's like probably true or probably not, because you always want to expand your core personal story to not letting people to feel that they are only seeing the repetitive content you are putting out. It's not always just about how you created this brand, why you created this brand, and then how good it is right now. It's about a personal journey that you grow with your brand, you grow with your business, and then around your personal brands, you can always pick 3 to 4 main pillar topics to talk about. You are not only going to talk about your brand, but you can also talk about the industry you're in, the topics that it truly resonate or interest you in your daily life. And then around those main pillar topics, you can always have subtopics to talk about. So then your personal brands is not only going to limit to one set, like one topics that like going to be boring for yourself to be telling all the time, or the audience is always receiving. And then to build a personal story, it's not a one time exercise. It's actually should be consistent. And then along with your journey of your brand, it shouldn't just be one article, one post, or one video. It should be elevate with your journey, with your business, your brand, your life, and your personal experience. So your personal story and interests can always be iterated on and then have this consistency. So your personal brand, it's actually going to last longer with your brand. So, after the 4 tips, I also want to show all of you that the common story pitfalls that we need to avoid. The first one is to using excessive promotional languages. I know for the founders or the boss of your e-commerce brand, you cannot help but like always using the selling tone. So like buy our products, this is like our promo code, like try our product, use my products. But remember, you are the storyteller. You're telling your own story. Remember, the ultimate goal is not to sell more products. It's actually to build connections, emotional connections with your audiences. The more promotional languages you use, the less power you're going to convey, and then the less likely are you going to form a meaningful relationship with your audiences. So try to avoid that. The second pitfall is to neglect to engage with your audience's feedback. So you want to tell your story, at the same time you want to listen to the feedback of your audiences. You cannot just like be telling like on the purpose of just like speaking out. You have to pay attention story, and then are they going to relate with you? Are they invoke the right emotions you want them to feel? Are you using the right format, the right languages at the right time to talking to the right set of audiences you want to reach, right? The third pitfalls that all of you need to avoid when doing personal storytelling is also share. It's try not to share irrelevant stories, because sometimes it's in order to show more stories about yourself, especially personal, people tend to start sharing a lot of irrelevant stories to introduce to their audiences or to their call audiences. And then like this is like a normal mistakes, but it will actually divert the attentions of like the people to focus on your personal brands and your core e-commerce brand. So you want to avoid showing irrelevant stories and then only share the more relevant stories of yourself. And then after knowing all these tips and then the structure and then the benefit, now we're entering the final parts of today's session, which is I'm going to share with you two of like the case studies that I personally deeply involved in. One of them, how they actually build their personal story to fit into their e-commerce business. The case study number one, the brand I want to bring up with is actually A-Sleep. So A-Sleep is a D2C e-commerce brand that focuses on sleep technology that I was working for during 2019 to 2021. So the founder, the one of the founders and the current CEO is Mattel. So Mattel is a great storyteller, especially on Twitter, or now we should call it X platform. So in his profile, you can see he described himself as sleep nerd, biohacker, tennis, and motorsport enthusiast. Enthusiast. So he doesn't even say like begin with like okay, like I'm the CEO of A-Sleep, but he categorized themselves into those four pillow main topics, which is sleep, biotech, tennis, and motorsports. So all of a sudden, you know about him. He like what is this person is actually about, right? And then like when you're actually going through all his content, you can see he actually has a pretty good content connections, like collections about all those four topics he just described himself as, like, which is like sleep nerd, where he always talking about how he sleep, how he utilized a sleep app and a sleep like cover to sleep better, and then like what are the new healthy biohacking way that he try, or like how many like hours of tennis or motor sport like he has tried in the past like few weeks. So I want to share this case because I want to tell you guys like how his way of personal story actually helping a sleep to grow. So his personal story becomes the brand story. And then a lot of people actually has like the same struggle with sleep because like he is the person who suffer from the restless legs, have a full night of sleep and then he constantly share his story of sleep improvement and how he runs the a sleep business, right? So more and more people join the discussion about how to sleep better and then how to run a business off this side. So like VC jump in, like Silicon Valley discussion jump in, and then like a lot of like this biohack itself. The result is actually credible. So Mattel, through telling her his personal story, actually he started to foster a community of people caring about sleep and willing to try a sleep to improve their sleep. So you will see a lot of celebrities or famous people, especially in tech and the healthcare industry, they would ask Mattel for try on a sleep mattress or a sleep cover, and then translate that directly to revenue or business impact. It's that after starting crafting or sharing more personal stories like on different platform including podcasts, Twitter, and other platform, we actually asleep actually saw 2 to 4 times more direct e-commerce website traffic from Mattel's social accounts, right? This is incredible because like this costs zero paid marketing dollars. It just through organic content, the content of his personal story that turns into reach, turns into traffic, turns into the revenue. And last but not least, it's also attract attention for uh, a lot of high visibility people in tech, entertainment, and finance on social. And then they also join the conversations. They engage their participation to become the advocates for the brand. So let's also then take a look of another examples that is not selling products, it's selling their services online. So which is like more like probably more relatable for a lot more people that watching this video is that they kind of like become a influencer first and then capitalize their influence on social or on different platform and then trying to create like selling their services or create their business on, right? So the case study number 2, what I want to share with you guys is actually Jeremy Lee, a career consultant or career influencers on TikTok and Instagrams that now is the co-founder of One Zouting, which is like a career service for a lot of younger people to land their jobs, right? So he is a career influencer on social, and then he becomes the co-founder and selling one outing online business, online services, like a lot of like resume bundles, like career services, like career services, like and then even their AI solutions, like to different careers, right? So you can see like Jeremy Lee already have like 1 million followers on Instagram. So in his content, you can see like it's almost like daily content that with videos, updates, like tips, images, like all type of like formats that he share on different platforms. And then like a lot of them, it's about his personal story about how he got his first job at Google, how he becomes the first Google intern of his university, and then he was not from a target school, and then how he landed a job and then being promoted multiple times during his time at Google, and now how he's helping other people, other students, other young professionals to land interviews, land jobs like in different like big companies, right? So why does this actually works is that he has created like very highly relatable topics with a lot of personal touch, which is like using the personal story as a hook to to his audiences, which is like job hunters, into like people who is in interview, especially the younger generation, Gen Z, like immigrants need working visa. And then also like he always running experiments on resumes, such as like, okay, like have big name versus not big names on resumes, having like target school like versus like non-target school, like all type of like experiment, social experiments, like on telling his audience about his insights into the recruiting world, right? So he actually gives more than what people ask for, because like he is like very consistent with what he was posting about, and then he gives out a lot of free resources and free tips on his social. So the result is incredible as well, because as you can see, he certainly foster a community that is over 1 million people. He already has 10,000 paid customers for their e-commerce site, which is their e-commerce, which is their career service. um, he has landed a lot of partnerships with other influencers and other brands. So, for example, recently they partner with like Salesforce to promote their online courses, right? And then they also listen to their community and improve on their products iterations and service. So they are introducing like AI for applying, like AI for resume, and then like all kinds of like this AI service around career services. So to close out today's sessions, I actually want to emphasize on building your personal stories for your e-commerce brands. Is actually building relationship, and relationship is so important. That relationship is the lifeblood of the brands. If you have no relationship, you have no sustainable business. All the money you are going to build, it's like probably one time or a few times that like they won't last. Brand actually needs a soul, not the script. So it's not about the marketing languages that you're using to describe the brand, but actually what is like the core, what's like the essence of your brands, right? And then inside of this relationship building, inside of like the soul of the brand, personal story can be the key to building that relationship, and then let others see the soul of your brand. So that's the end of today's session. And then I hope you guys enjoying it and start building your personal story for your e-commerce brand. Thank you so much for your time. And then best of luck for your e-commerce business. Thank you.